A good morning to you, Braden. Good morning to everybody out there joining us here on a Tuesday here in the pre-show. Getting everything ready to go. I had the playback in my ear because I have the YouTube video open for the link, and I just heard myself in my ear, and it was a little. It scared me. Made me think I had something wrong with my tech setup, but that is inaccurate. Just had the stream open. But I hope everybody's having a great start to their Tuesday. We'll give it a couple of minutes to let everybody file in here, and then we will get started on today's show. Yes, some very fun playoff hockey last night. 2 OT games. An interesting situation in the Warriors-Kings series last night in the playoff basketball side of things. But yes, a very fun evening of playoff hockey, and I would say playoff basketball as well. Some interesting things going on in both of those sports right now. And tonight you've got a couple more games in the playoff basketball side of things, including. Oh, Braden, are you trolling me, or did you not see what happened between the Warriors and the Kings? Is this a troll? If you're trolling me, I will not fall for the troll. If it's a serious inquiry, I will point you in the right direction. But I will not take part in your trolling games here to start the Tuesday. I will not allow my day to be started off that way. No, I didn't see. I don't watch basketball. Okay. Well, do yourself a favor and just Google Warriors Kings, and you will have the right thing pointed in your direction. You will be pointed in the correct direction for. Yes, Sean, I am referencing the Draymond Green thing that occurred last night in the game. Yes, that is what I am referencing. Hello to you, Sean. Happy Tuesday. We'll make this the pre-show conversation, and then we'll jump into Budda Baker and the Arizona Cardinals. I've got Budda's contract already loaded up and ready to go for today's show. I knew we were going to need that at some point, so we are ready to go. I also have a fan on here in the pre-show because I have my door closed. It gets a little hot in here, but we will turn the fan off when we record the show. Hello, Jamie. Did you see, Jamie, the pre-show conversation today, non-football related, which is normally what we do around these parts, the Draymond Green, Domantas Sabonis thing from the Warriors Kings last night. Sean, can you do me a favor? Can you take that question, and I want you to freeze it in time and ask it to me later during the show, because I do believe that this is a very important part of our conversation that will be had today with the Cardinals and their, I think, strong likelihood that they will be in the mix for the top pick, right, based on Kyler Murray's lack of availability throughout the season because of recovering from the ACL. So we will talk about this. I will answer that question, but I want to make it a part of the show. I'm waiting for Braden's reaction to what happened with the Warriors and the Kings, and then we will get into the show. So we're just waiting on you, Braden. You're holding up the whole operation here. Holding up the whole show. We'll just, I don't mind. We'll just sit here and wait. We'll just sit here and have a nice conversation amongst the group. It's a great question, though, Braden, about what new bet Jamie has for the drive today. He hasn't sent me anything. He has not sent me anything. He has sent me what the show topic should be for the show we're recording today for tomorrow of prospects and props. But nothing. The Raiders should draft Bijan. Imagine finally listening to your friend who's been on this train for a little bit now. Peter says between the number 3 pick, Budda, and D-Hop, the amount of trades the Cardinals are involved in is ridiculous. We will also kind of talk about that as well, Peter, but I think it is a great point. All right, Braden, listen, I filibustered for as long as I can, but good morning, everybody. Good morning. I hope everyone's having a great start to their Tuesday. I can't wait for, everybody to look things up. And, I thought in what would be a timely manner, but it is what it is. So, all right, we're going to turn the fan off here. Stand by. I've got the fan here off screen to kind of cool the room down while we're doing the show. So let me turn this off. I had to make sure I hit the power button. But I hope everybody's having a great start to their Tuesday. We will get started here in, 10 seconds or so when I push the button. And topics of conversation, obviously the Cardinals and Budda Baker requesting a trade, something we haven't been able to get super in-depth into here on the show. Happened late Friday, and then the weekend happened, and then Jalen Hurts, Mock Draft Monday, a lot of things kind of got in the way of us being able to talk about it yesterday. So here we go. We will get started and we will have this conversation. Appreciate everybody already starting to put some questions and some comments in the chat. We will get to them throughout the course of the show. So here we go. And welcome into the Tuesday edition of the TDN Daily podcast. Chris Schubert back with you here once again on the show. Hope everybody is having a great start to their Tuesday. Budda Baker, trade request, the Arizona Cardinals, and what it might mean for the 2023 NFL Draft and the number 3 overall pick. All the topic of conversation, the focus of today's show. Appreciate all of you listening out there in the podcast feed. Hello to everybody watching the video version here on YouTube. Hope you are all having a great start to your Tuesday. A topic that was originally supposed to be kind of the subject, the laser focus of yesterday's show, ultimately got upended by Jalen Hurts signing a contract extension, so we pushed into today's episode, but we are going to talk about Budda Baker making a trade request, or at least us learning about him making a trade request, because I think that's the important distinction here. This is not a recent trade request. This is one that was made a little bit ago. We are just learning about it now, and Budda went to the Cardinals and apparently asked for a trade and wants to be the highest paid safety in the league, and that is the reasoning that is being used behind him not wanting to be there anymore. Now, I think it's important to kind of set a foundation for this conversation to set us up for what this topic is going to be about. But Budda Baker, 27 years old, just signed 2.5 years ago, right? This August, it will be 3 years since he signed this contract, but signed a 4-year, $59 million contract with the Cardinals back in August of 2020, $33.1 million in guarantees, 22.1 of it fully guaranteed. He is entering year 4 of that 5-year deal. This year will be year 4 of what ultimately ended up being a 5-year deal. It was a 4-year extension, but it tacked on the last year or 1 year of his rookie deal, which was 2020, and then the 4 years added on for 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024. So 2023 and 2024, the last 2 years of that deal, when he signed it, pretty sure it made him one of the top, if not the top safety at the position. Right now, Budda Baker, here's where he stands among safeties with the current contract. His $59 million puts him just above Eddie Jackson, but below Justin Simmons, Harrison Smith, Jesse Bates, Jamal Adams, Marcus Williams, Kevin Byard, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Derwin James. A good portion, if not all of those, I think, were signed after Budda got his. His $14.75 million annual average value is only surpassed by Justin Simmons, Harrison Smith, Jesse Bates, Jamal Adams, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Derwin James. Again, all contracts signed after he got his deal. The total guarantees of $33 million. Again, the only guys in front of him, that big group that we mentioned: Justin Simmons, Minkah, Jesse Bates, Marcus Williams, Jamal Adams, and Derwin James. And in terms of fully guaranteed money, with the 22.1, not that many in front of him. Only 4 safeties in front of him: Justin Simmons, Jesse Bates, Minkah Fitzpatrick, and Derwin James. So while not near the top, or at least the tippy top of the market anymore, still a respectable number for Budda Baker, but he wants to be put in that class with Derwin James, with Minkah Fitzpatrick, with Jesse Bates, with Justin Simmons. Now, the problem with that is Derwin James and Minkah Fitzpatrick are making those numbers right now when they are 27. Budda right now at 27 as well, so you can understand why he would want to reshape and restructure and get a new contract, or at least an extension that puts him more in line with where guys his age are being paid. Now, I will tell you that the cap numbers on this have been very friendly for the Arizona Cardinals. $3.7 million in the first year of what ultimately was a 5-year deal. But when he signed it, accounted for 1.9 against the cap, 4.1% of the cap in 2021, 7.1% of the cap last year. Only accounts for 7.4% of the cap this year, and an estimated 7% of the cap in 2024. So this is not a contract that is an albatross to the Arizona Cardinals. It is not a contract that is holding them back from doing anything. And I think the other piece of context that we need to add before getting into the demand itself, what the Cardinals should or shouldn't do, and how it impacts the 2023 NFL Draft. The Arizona Cardinals sit in 2023 right now on April 18th, 2023 with $20.6 million in cap space. That is what they have that is available to them right now to be able to sign players via free agency. They also need it to be able to sign a draft class, but they also can use that for extensions. 2024, next year, $49.6 million in cap space. And that's before they do any attempts at a restructure. That's before any potential trades take guys off the books. That's where the Cardinals sit. So from a strictly financial perspective, the Arizona Cardinals have the cap space to be able to get this done. So let's dive into this. And we'll look at it from the three angles that I think are very important. And we will start with the Budda Baker side of this. The idea of requesting a trade, 2.5, almost 3 years after you just got a contract extension. And we talked about it yesterday in our Overreaction Monday on the TDN Premium Discord. Cheap plug for those of you out there who maybe aren't a TDN Premium member to go ahead and join. You get access to the TDN Premium Discord where we do some premium exclusive content. And Overreaction Monday, one of those things where you guys join what is our normal TDN staff meeting where we have these conversations about different topics. You guys get to ask questions, very similar to what we do here on TDN Daily. But we talked about this, and there was a back and forth between a couple members of the staff of saying, is this really, the right way to handle things? Budda just got a contract extension, 3 years ago, and now he wants a new deal that's going to make him the highest paid safety. What happens in another year or two when other players beat that? Is he going to ask for another contract extension to become the highest paid safety? And, what does that look like? Is it really, worth it to do that? And we discussed whether or not it was in the Cardinals' best interest to do so. And ultimately, if you are of the belief that Budda Baker is requesting a trade because he doesn't want to be a part of whatever the Arizona Cardinals are defining their 2023 season, whatever they're defining this current chapter of their franchise, first-year GM in Monty Ossenfort, first-year coach in Jonathan Gannon, franchise quarterback in the building, signed to a long-term deal. Again, not really the pieces that you expect to be put together in that way. First-time head coach, first-time GM, but a quarterback that you've already got under contract long-term that's kind of got that GM and coach in a bit of a bind. They got to make that work. It's a weird situation. So where are they in the life cycle of a team? You've also got the idea that Kyler Murray's got a torn ACL, and I don't know how much, if at all, we can expect him to play in 2023. I think that's the big relative unknown to this. So you can understand it from Budda's perspective if I'm going to be here, if I'm going to take part in whatever this circus is going to be in 2023 and really beyond, because this team has got a lot of needs to address. We've discussed it here on the show before. I feel they need help in every layer of both sides of the ball. And probably multiple players at those positions. Need help on the offensive line, need more wide receivers, need help in the running back room, need help getting pass rush, need help on the interior, need help at the linebacker spot, need corners. Even with Budda Baker, you need safeties. I mean, they need everything. They need help on every layer of their team, both offense and defense. So if Budda's going to stick around, he says, well, you know what? If I'm going to stick around and be a part of this and I'm going to ball out in my prime at this position, I want a new deal. I've only got one more year left on this deal anyway. After this season, let's restructure so I can be here long term, and I can be paid as the highest paid safety in the league. And that's kind of where I fall on this, right? I don't think this is going to be a case of Budda Baker is going to constantly ask for a new contract every time he's no longer the highest paid safety in the league. He's only got one more year on his deal after this. So his age 27 season, and then he's got his age 28 season next year, and then he's going to be a free agent. Well, if he can get a deal done now that can carry him into, what would that be, a 4 or 5 year deal if you add in this current year on the deal? So you're looking at a deal that's going to pay him until he's 32 or 33. That's probably the last big contract that he's going to get at the position. So he wants to maximize his value now and get that cash in on that new big money contract extension while he's playing some of his best football, and that's the resume that he's put together. So from that perspective, it makes sense. If you are coming at this from the angle of Budda is just doing this to get out of a tumultuous situation in Arizona, well, he could just request a trade. And I think everybody on planet Earth would understand Budda looking around and saying, man, I don't want to be a part of this. I don't know what this is going to look like, and wanting to play someplace else. Requesting a trade is different from requesting a trade because you want a new contract and the Cardinals aren't giving that contract. Those are two very different things. If he wants to be out of there and he just requested a trade, I would certainly understand it. I think most of you listening to the show would understand, because you all can look at Arizona and say, oof, I don't know how good that team's going to be. We had questions in the pre-show about what happens when the Cardinals have the number one pick, which we will get to. I see your question in the chat, Sean. But these are the conversations that are happening amongst people in the football content space about what this is going to look like for the Cardinals in 2024. You don't think Budda Baker's having those conversations? You don't think Budda and his agent and his friends and other teammates are not having those conversations of what that team's going to look like? Not just this season, but the future? I mean, that's I can understand when Budda signed that contract in 2020, things were kind of trending in a different direction. They had that great year where they started the year 8-0, and then from there it was the collapse, the loss in the playoff game to the Rams. The following season was a disaster, the torn ACL for Kyler. I mean, all of that stuff has not gone the Cardinals' way. And so the conditions when Budda signed that contract in 2020 have changed. But if he went in there and said, I don't want to be here anymore, I would like to request a trade, I'd like to play someplace else, I think we would all understand it. I think it's a little different when he goes in there and requests a trade and says he doesn't want, it's because he wants a new contract. Because then that leads into the Cardinals side of this, right? Because what we do know is it is a trade request because he wants to be the highest paid safety in the league. If you are the Arizona Cardinals, for a team that we just mentioned, we just talked about the idea that this team needs help in every single layer of their team. And there wasn't a single person in the live YouTube chat that pushed back on me and said, no, Chris, they've got X player, they've got Y player, they've got Z player. You're not giving him the benefit of the doubt. Because that is the true reality of the situation. They need help on every single position group, maybe outside of the quarterback position, on their team right now. And there might be some who would say they should move on from Kyler Murray. But they've signed him to the big franchise contract, so we're going to assume he's a constant right now. So when you are the Cardinals and you need help in every layer of your team, what does it do for you when one of your marquee players, one of the few key pieces that you would say you have on this team, wants out, and it's because of a contract dispute? You can't find a way to make that contract get done? You can't figure out a way to get a newly put together deal for Budda Baker? You don't want to get a newly done deal for Budda Baker? When you are a team that is in this level of transition, you got to keep the guys that you do have. You got to keep the guys that do make this thing tick. Because Budda's only 27 years old. You are still going to get prime Budda Baker at that position. And Budda Baker is one of the top 5 safeties in the league. Guy's a ball hawk. Guy's a great tackler. Guy plays with a ton of energy, a ton of physicality. I mean, he is the heartbeat of that defense. He is the way that defense goes. As he goes, that team goes. And so when I look at this from the Cardinals' perspective, you don't want to get the good PR if you're Monty Ossenfort, if you're Jonathan Gannon. You're Jonathan Gannon, you're not pounding the table to Monty Ossenfort to say, give me this guy. Give me this guy. You see the safeties I worked with in Philadelphia? I need this guy on my team. Get this contract done. We've got the cap space. What are we doing here? You're telling me Jonathan Gannon's not pounding the table? That's why it feels weird to me. It's why if I'm Arizona, you got to get this done. You got to show a goodwill gesture to the fans. This is one of the fan favorites. This is a guy that we like. This is a guy that this city loves. This city loves to root for. And I know because I'm in this city, I hear it all the time. People love Budda Baker. Get the deal done. Figure it out. Find a way to keep this guy in here, because Tuttle makes the point that's going to transition into the draft angle of this. If you're not, and this is Tuttle's comment, if you're not paying anyone besides Murray, then trade the main assets and restock your roster. Exactly. If you are not going to pay Budda Baker, who are you going to pay? If you are not going to pay Budda Baker, what difference does it make what player you get at number 3? You are admitting that you need a complete overhaul of this roster. Now, I think we would agree that this roster needs a major overhaul, but guess what? I want to check one of the major boxes. I want to check one of the major boxes of Budda Baker for the next 5 seasons, that he's on my team till he's 32 or 33 years old, and I've got a piece. I've got something I can check off. I'm going to get elite top-end production from the safety position. Check. Don't have to worry about it. I can go worry about the 50,000 other things that we need as a team. That's the direction you need to go in. Because I'm here to tell you, if there is not a deal done where the Cardinals are able to work out a deal with Budda Baker, and we will transition into 2023 NFL draft talk, if you're not going to pay Budda Baker, I don't care how good you think Will Anderson is. I don't care how good you think Tyree Wilson is. You absolutely cannot be making a pick at number 3. You need every piece of draft capital you can get. And even more so, if you're trading Budda Baker, I need draft capital in 2024. I potentially, if a team's coming up from a faraway spot, I need picks in 2025. You need all of the draft capital you can get. Because if you're not willing to pay Budda Baker, who are you willing to pay? If you are not willing to pay Budda Baker, what does this roster actually truly look like? I think there are some people, I think people are split on Kyler Murray, but I think the camp that believes in Kyler Murray believes he can be a difference maker, but he can't do everything. He can't stop the opposing team from scoring. He can't do that. And so if you're going to get rid of one of the key factors of your defense and you're not going to pay that guy, and we don't know what the conversations have been like. I want to make that very clear. We don't know. Ultimately, they could get a deal done, and maybe ultimately this is posturing from Budda saying that he wants to be the highest paid safety just to get out of Arizona. We don't know any of the intricate details, but what we do know is a trade request was made, and it was reportedly because he wants to be the highest paid safety. That's all the information that we can go on. So if the Cardinals don't want to do this, if they don't want to get it done, or they don't get it done, and they decide to just trade Budda Baker, let's, for example, say they just can't work out a contract. They just can't come to a number that makes sense, or just Budda truly doesn't want to be there, right? Let's just say that. And you trade Budda Baker. It doesn't matter whether or not you gave the contract or not. You traded away your best defensive player. We got to have a complete reevaluation of the way we're doing things here. We can't pick Will Anderson at number 3 because are we going to be when Will Anderson is at his best, at his peak? Are we going to be competitive? Or are we going to trade down and take another player and get more pieces so that we're able to continually build to this roster in 2024 and 2025 and beyond? That's the back and forth that I have. And we've got a lot of comments in the chat that have been piling up here. And I kind of went on a little bit of a rant here at the beginning of the show. And so we'll get to some of them now. But Sean asks, what happens when the Cardinals are the worst team in the NFL and have the number 1 pick? Does Kyler get the axe? Do they take Caleb Williams? And I want this to be a PSA. And I think I've said it before on this show. I know I've said it on Prospects and Props. I know I've said it in some TDN Overreaction Mondays and in some film studies as well. So I will say it again here to make sure it is on the record. But everybody do me a favor. Google the Kyler Murray contract. Go to Spotrac. If you want to, go to overthecap.com. Spotrac has a better breakdown of how this would work out from a cap perspective if they made these moves. Go look at click on the 2024 number and then click the little X, which means you're going to get rid of Kyler Murray after 2024. Click on that number and see what the dead cap ramifications are for any single one of those options. A cut, a trade, either post-June 1 or pre-June 1, and tell me if you think a team is going to take on that kind of dead cap that they have to allocate to their team. Because if you are doing this, right, let's play this out, Sean. They have the number 1 overall pick, and they're going to take Caleb Williams. They're going to trade or cut Kyler Murray, and in a best-case scenario, carry a $13 million dead cap hit in 2024, but then a $33 million dead cap hit in 2025. The idea of having a Caleb Williams or a Drake May or any of the other quarterbacks that you want to mention in the 2024 class, or any of the quarterbacks, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, any of the quarterbacks that you're taking this year, the idea and what makes those guys so attractive not only is their skill set, but the idea that you have them on a rookie contract and you can use the excess cap space to be able to support that player with other pieces. You can go out and give big market contracts to those other positions that maybe you aren't able to hit on or develop in the draft. But guess what? You're going to carry $33 million in dead cap in 2025 for a player that's not going to be here. You're going to waste one of those years of a rookie contract. And oh, by the way, if Caleb Williams is as good as everybody thinks he is, and he's the number 1 overall pick, you're really going to only have what? 3 years of that deal? 4 years of that deal? Before you're going to have to negotiate a contract extension? If Caleb's as good as everybody thinks he is, you think 5 years, $255 that Jalen Hurts got is what Caleb Williams is going to get? Again, if he's as good as everybody says he is? So you're going to waste 2 years of what is a 4-year window when you have this contract that works for you, because you're going to pay $46 million in dead cap charges to move on from Kyler Murray. Again, is it possible? Yes, they could make the decision. Do I think it's likely? No. And I think the math bears it out. The Sports Nut says, does Arizona value amount of draft capital or staying in a certain range when looking to trade from 3? I think it's a great question. I think if you're trading Budda Baker, give me amount of draft capital. If Budda Baker's still on this roster and you're going to trade out at number 3, which, by the way, I think they should do regardless, give me a certain range, because I still want to get one of the top edges. That's a major position of need for them. But if I'm trading Budda Baker, and it's not just trading one player, it's what the significance of that one player, and I think the signal it sends to the larger fan base of where this team is at. If you trade Budda Baker, who are you keeping around? So give me the most amount of draft capital possible. If we're keeping Budda, and he's the linchpin of our defense, the heartbeat, the leader of our defense. We've got Kyler, even though we don't know how much he's going to play in 2023. We have him on the offensive side of the ball. I'll trade back to get more picks because I'm always going to need more picks to overhaul this team, but I kind of want to stay in a certain range, probably no further down than top 12 to be able to get one of these edge rushers or potentially an interior player like Jalen Carter. Right? That makes some sense. Sean says, why does Philly give Cardinals pick number 30 make too much sense if Philly gets the safety and the Cardinals get more ammo to rebuild? Yeah, I mean, the current report is that the Cardinals are probably looking at a day 2 pick. I believe that came from Albert Breer, that the request of a new contract is what would stop that from being a top draft pick. Now, are the Eagles going to look at pick 30 and value it the same as they do pick 10? Or are they going to view pick 30 and say it's basically like a second-round pick anyway in this year's draft class? We can use it to get an impact safety, a player that we wouldn't be able to get at pick 30, right? Even if all the safeties are available at pick 30, they're not going to get a player of Budda Baker's caliber that can be able to help them right now at 30. So if you're the Cardinals, would you take pick 30 for Budda Baker? If you can't get a contract done, again, I think getting a contract done should be priority number one. That's a great question, Sean. I mean, I certainly think if I'm the Cardinals and I get to a situation where I cannot keep Budda in the building, pick 30 would entice me. I would be picking 10. I'd be picking 3. I'd be picking 30, and we can go from there. I would still then trade out of 3, move down to at furthest, 10 or 12, pick 30, have future firsts as well. Then you kind of be setting yourself up for success. But I can't see a scenario where the Cardinals should stay and pick at 3. I certainly think if they move Budda Baker between now and the draft, or between now and the draft, they know that they're moving on from Budda Baker, I don't see how staying at 3 is best for the long-term future of the team. And I want to make something very clear. I think too often in this space in football media, and I think too often in other sports, particularly in baseball, teams focus too much on the long-term future, right? When it comes to trading prospects, there's too much of a conversation of, yeah, but you got to think about 5 years down the road. What could this prospect potentially be? And what about the team 5 years down the road? And I think we get too caught up in long-term future. When quarterbacks get big-time contracts like Jalen Hurts did yesterday, people worry about, I don't know about that contract 4 or 5 years from now. People worry too much about the long-term future. But in this case, I think the only thing the Cardinals have is a long-term future. They don't have a short-term future. They don't have a 1, 2, even 3-year window where I think they can put together a magical run. They have to think with the long-term in the front of their mind, not in the back of their mind. Teams like the Eagles, I'm not worried about the long-term future. We got a window right now. Howie's great at this. Howie's great at being able to tear it down and rebuild it. He's shown that he's able to do it. I want to maximize the short term. I want to maximize probably the next 3 years to be able to try to break through and win a Super Bowl again. That's what I want to do. You saw the Rams do it. They went all in on a short little window. They won a Super Bowl. Tampa did it with Tom. Went in on a window, won a Super Bowl. So there are situations and teams where a short-term window makes some sense. The Cardinals are not one of those teams. The Cardinals need to be thinking with a long-term vision. Again, picking number 3, I don't think makes sense in any capacity. But if you were going to trade Budda Baker between now and the draft, or you're going to trade Budda Baker in general, keeping that number 3 pick, I don't think does you any favors. Doesn't matter how good Will Anderson is going to be. You are still going to be so far behind, and you're not going to have the draft picks that you could get. Because again, what are you going to get? At best, you're going to get 30 for the Eagles for Budda Baker. So you didn't add, you don't trade 3. You trade Budda for a pick this year. Guess what? You don't have additional capital in 2024. You don't have additional capital in 2025. Yeah, you're going to have cap space, but you don't have additional capital. You've got Kyler on the books for a big contract. You were able to pick a good player at 3, and if Will Anderson's great, that checks a box, but you still need help all over the place. So to me, you need to get the most draft capital possible, and then with that draft capital, hit some home runs. Hit some home runs. Hit some grand slams even. And get some franchise cornerstones to be able to surround this coaching staff, this new GM, Kyler Murray, with, to be able to probably 4 or 5 years from now have that window. Maybe 3 if you do it correctly and you get enough picks in 2024 and 2025, and you can spend the $49 million that you currently have, $50 million that you have in 2024, and right now the $188.5 million that you have available in 2025 in cap space. You might be able to do this in 3 years. But you got to start now. This has to be a home run. And that includes trading the number 3 pick. So a fun look into the Budda Baker, Arizona Cardinals, how it could impact the 2023 NFL draft, and see how it all plays out. And this is the fun part. These are the fun little thought exercises that we can go through here between now and the NFL draft. Will something get done, in the week plus that we have until the draft? I don't know. If the Cardinals ultimately make the decision that they are not going to keep Budda Baker, or they can't keep Budda Baker for whatever reason, then I would want to get as much draft capital as I can, as soon as possible so I can see what I'm dealing with. And then I can start making those phone calls to trade number 3 and make those moves. So that would be kind of the timeline that I'll be working on. But the best part about all of this is we will get to find out. I know we have to wait, and time will only tell, but ultimately we will get an answer. Either Budda Baker's going to be on the Cardinals to start week 1 of the regular season, or he's not. Right now it appears that the Cardinals have no interest in moving him, according to reports. So right now that's where they're at. Maybe they'll be able to work out a contract. But I think the Cardinals are one of the more interesting teams. I think we've talked about the Texans. At number 2, maybe not taking a quarterback. The Cardinals at number 3 are where things can get a little weird. Because if they stay at 3, it's going to be weird. If they trade out of 3, we know what that means. There are a lot of different scenarios that play out when they pick at number 3. That's going to do it for us on the podcast version of the show. Appreciate everybody listening in today to this conversation about Budda Baker and the Arizona Cardinals. Please do me a favor, rate, review, subscribe to the podcast, tell a friend to tell a friend, and make some time. Come out and join us on the YouTube version of the show, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every single day on the Jeff Network YouTube channel. Give us a subscribe over there about that, and you'll be able to join the conversation, which includes the post show as well, which we get into some random stuff. We were talking about Draymond Green in the pre-show, so you can, again, the post show gets wild. We talk about all sorts of different things there as well. So appreciate everybody making this show a part of your day. I hope everybody has a great rest of their Tuesday. I will talk to you all tomorrow. Janelle with a fantastic point. If Arizona fans need advice on waiting, just ask the Jets, Ravens, or Packers fans. It is 100% accurate. Those fans have been waiting for a while. Yes, Braden, we will find out. Of course we will. Things have to come to a resolution one way or another. And if he plays in 2023, is he going to sit out? No, he's not. He's going to play somewhere in 2023. So we are going to find out. We are going to know the answer to this question. My guess, they'll figure something out. That's my guess. I think Monty Ossenfort and everybody involved realize how important he is to what Arizona is doing, what he means from a PR perspective, what he means from a fan perspective. The signal that you would send if you traded him away would be just, you got to completely tear this thing down, and you can't because of that quarterback contract. So they've really got to get something figured out. And again, he's a good player. Like, he's a very good player. He's a top 5 player at the position. Like, just pay him. Now, if he doesn't want the contract from Arizona, you can't do anything about that. That's not their fault. So, I won't hold that against them if they can't. It takes two signatures are required on the contract. Is signature from the Arizona Cardinals? Maybe 3. How many signatures do you think are on a contract? The player, maybe the agent, the GM, and probably the owner? 4? We think 4 signatures on a contract? Or just 2? Do you just think the owner and the player? I don't know how many signatures would be on a contract. It's a fascinating conversation. Braden says shot +6 yesterday. The driver wasn't too bad for one of my first times. Usually have some trouble with it. That's great to see, Braden. I got to get back out there, but it's getting hot. So I got to play early if I'm going to play. And that means I can't play during the work week. Sometimes you can sneak out late in the afternoon and hit like a 2 or 3 o'clock round. Play 18, sun's out a little bit longer. It's 67, 70 degrees. It's great. But you have a match play league, Braden? That's fantastic. By the way, my phone just gave me a notification that says 4 years ago, trip to Nashville. Do you guys know what happened 4 years ago in Nashville? Do you guys remember? Do you remember? 4 years ago today in Nashville, something called the NFL Draft happened. I was there. Not for the Draft Network. Saw my friends at the Draft Network there. I was there doing national radio from the draft, from the media room. Was really interesting. Players were selected. That's true, Braden. That's true. But you're in a match play league? That's fantastic. But yeah, if I want to play, I got to get out like early on the weekends. Like I have to be like one of the first tee times out. You got to play at like 6 or 6:30. Like, if you play after like 7:30, not right now, it's okay, but like in like probably like 4 weeks or so, it's not going to be okay. Where if you go out after 7:30, like it's not enjoyable. Sam, I remember that. I remember that some guy went downtown and pretended he was a 6th round selection, and it was glorious. Everything about the Nashville draft was glorious. A great city, a great environment, a great stage. Like it was really cool. Like they did such a good job. Brayden, I need to hear more about this match play. I know, like, there's probably 0 people in here that actually care about match play league, but I need more details. What are you looking forward to in Kansas City? Barbecue. I've heard a lot about it. We'll see. I'll be the judge. How about that? I'll be the judge about how good your barbecue is, Kansas City. But yeah, 4 years ago, this week, Nashville. It was a great time. I'm sitting here in just suspense for these match play details for Brayden's Golf League. I love how Jamie is just putting in the chat what we did on prospects and props, but he made it very confusing for me to decipher. Okay, so on today's show, the show that has been released on podcast feed, it's already out, but YouTube version will be coming later today. Appreciate Jamie reminding me of this. We talked about Bryce Young being the overwhelming favorite to be number 1. We talked about there being a new favorite to go number 2 overall. We talked about linebacker 1 having a new co-favorite. Might not be the name you're thinking of. And then we did the NFC South win totals. Tomorrow's show, which we are recording today, which is why Jamie confused me when he said for the pod today, we are discussing Will Levis's odds to go number 2 have jumped. Bijan Robinson and Nolan Smith emerging as the betting favorites for the Falcons at number 8. And we're going to talk about the idea of over 4.5 quarterbacks in round 1 moving to minus odds. And we ranked the top 12 quarterbacks. Yes, we did. We did that as well. So in match play, I won the year-end tournament a few years ago. We got 22 people signed up for this year. My handicap is probably going to start the year 5.3 this year. Brayden, that's politely, Brayden, those are not the details I'm looking for. Like, how does this work? Is it the same? We did discuss prices right, yes. And we've got some cool things that I think we're going to discuss on tomorrow's show. We haven't recorded it yet, but there's some topics that I have. I need to know, like, is it the same course every time? How did the matchups get decided? Like, are there standings? Like, how does it work? I'm an infrastructure guy. I'm a logistics guy. I'm a process guy. I got to know how this works. Your 5 point, my handicap's way higher than 5.3. So you would kick my butt if we played golf. You'd have to give me a stroke a hole, like easy. If we ever played, like I would need a stroke for all 18. That doesn't matter. I would need a stroke every hole. But yeah, that's what you can look forward to on Prospects and Props. YouTube version of today's show coming later today. It's exported. I just have to upload it to the back end of YouTube. No, I need a. I'm not responding to that, Jamie. I'm not responding to that whatsoever. Not at all. Same course every time at my hometown, and we have 2 divisions, so the schedule is largely against your own division. Gets tough. Is there a scheduling committee? Who gets put in the divisions? Is it just random? See, everything you ask, I have more. You answer, I have more questions. Because I had a league. It kind of has gone dormant with a bunch of buddies here. Now we didn't play match play. We just played stroke play, and we played different courses every time. And then we had our major championship. And our major championship was played with like published handicaps. So the commissioners of the league took everybody's published handicaps and said, this is how many strokes you're going to get on the round. So whatever you score, we're going to take away that many strokes from your round. And we played a really tough course out here in Arizona. And I'm not the best golfer in the world. Like I think my handicap's like I think it's a 27. Like I'm not a great golfer. Like I get, you got to give me a lot. But I played like the round of my life that day and almost broke 100. I think I shot like a 102. But like all of the players that are good in our league shot like in the 90s and hundreds. Like the course ate everybody alive, and I was just able to hit some key shots in some key moments. So like the middle of handicaps is the cut line to dividing the divisions. Division 1 is probably like a 1.5 handicap to 7.5-ish this year. Division 2 is like 8 and below. Do you have promotion and relegation? Because that would be amazing if you have. That's what you should do. Promotion and relegation. Does anybody have any football-related questions? I don't want to sit here and just talk about golf the entire time. I know that there are a lot of people here. Does anybody have some draft-related questions? Anything that they would like to discuss while Brayden and I discuss this golf stuff? Because I could do this all day. I could sit here all day and ask Braden these questions. We'll make this somewhat of a last call for football-related things here on the show. But yeah, guys, I am really excited. Where does Hendon Hooker get drafted? It's a great question, Janelle. I'm skeptical that he goes in the first round, right? I can get there with certain teams making sense. Like Tampa makes sense. I'll say it. I think a team like the Jets makes some sense. So there are teams where I think it makes some sense. I just don't think it happens. So I think it's going to be like the top of the second round. And at that point, you're looking at teams like the Giants, the Seahawks potentially if they don't take a quarterback, in the first round. The Lions, maybe the Texans, like those are the teams I'm kind of thinking about. Who is my top linebacker this year? I would lean Trenton Simpson, but I like a lot of the depth in this class. Like I like Deion Henley a lot. I like Henry To'oTo'o a lot. Everybody knows I'm a big Ivan Pace guy. I know the size is a concern, but I like him. I think the physicality he brings, even at that size, he plays bigger than his size, which is a huge, plus for me. Braden says the Jets take Skoronski. What will be your immediate reaction if that happens? We need it live. I don't want to give away too much, but I think whatever the Jets do at 13, you will get an immediate reaction from me. That's all I'll say. That's all I got. Also, they better not take Skoronski at 13. Now, if they're going to play him at tackle, I can understand why they would make the pick. But we all kind of have an agreement here that we think he's a guard. So if we think he's a guard, I don't see the fit. I don't see the spot. But if they take him and they want to play him at tackle, then yeah, there's a need because they have Dwayne Brown, Mekhi Becton, and Max Mitchell for 2 spots. Max Mitchell was a 5th-round pick a year ago that held his own when he was out there, but I don't think they want to lean on Max. You can't rely on Mekhi Becton. You just can't until he shows you that he can play a full season again. Like, you just have to assume he's going to miss some time. And Dwayne Brown's like 100. Like, no offense to Dwayne Brown. Like, I love Dwayne, and Dwayne played really well last year, but he's very old. He's 38 years old. So, they need a tackle. So if they're going to take an offensive lineman, I would prefer it to be somebody that can play tackle. Now, if they take Skoronski because they think he can play tackle, and I cross my fingers that the New York media asks Joe the question if they take Skoronski of where he's going to play. If they see him more as a tackle or a guard, and see what Joe says. But again, if they're going to take a true tackle, they should take a different player. If they think Skoronski can play tackle, the pick can make some sense. But I don't think he can. Not that I think he'd just be better suited inside because of the length. So that's what I would do. All right, folks. This has been quite a bit of fun this morning. It always is a bit of fun hanging out with everybody. I appreciate everybody hanging out here on the show today on a Tuesday. We've got shows the rest of the week, Wednesday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here on the Draft Network YouTube channel. Braden says, I can't wait to see your predictive mock. You know, Braden, Jamie and I are going to do a predictive mock on the Prospects and Props podcast. When we do that, it'll probably release on the Thursday show, and then I'm going to do one here on the Draft Network, on the TDN Daily show on the Draft Network YouTube channel. I hope that it'll be the same one, and I don't mix up picks. But yeah, I'm looking forward to do it. This will be the first year that I do one. I didn't do one last year. But this will be the first year that I do one, and I'm looking forward to it. Brandon Bean was asked about first-round grades. Quote, it's not great. Does that jive with what you've heard in your circle? I mean, TDN as a whole, the final TDN 100 just got released on Monday, which, by the way, check out at thedraftnetwork.com. I think it was less than 20. I think it was anywhere between 17 and 19 was what the final estimate was, and I didn't do the math, so less than 20 first-round grades. So, yeah, that tracks with what our scouting staff says. That tracks with what they're seeing on tape. So I would agree with that. Appreciate everybody being here. Please give the video a thumbs up. It really helps us in the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel if you're not. I would assume most of the people here are already subscribed because you guys are here the moment I push the button. Hit the notification bell so you know that we go live. tell everybody, tell your friends about this, tell your friends about the show. We're building a great community here that's a lot of fun to be a part of every single day, and I hope that this can continue to grow, between now and the draft, and then for the entire 2024 draft cycle, the summer and everything that comes with that. So looking forward to the time ahead. So appreciate everybody being here. Hope everybody has a great rest of their day. I will talk to everybody tomorrow.